soccer, tennis, BMX. By the age of 8, I was a Brazilian champion at BMX. I compete at the national tennis circuit. But deep inside of me, I was drawn to the fight. And Jiu-Jitsu was my foundation. I became a national champion under Carson Gracie, the man who discovered me and was like a father to me in the martial arts. But I saw something that he couldn't see. Everyone was focused on the grappling, on the jiu-jitsu, but I believe in the future of MMA was the hands, boxing, footwork, distance, timing, accuracy. That will become the difference. But my hardest fight was not in the early days, was not in the gym. It was convincing my parents to drop out of school after the 8th grade. And I never forget that moment. Carson reminded me that night who I was, so I never forget that. So since then, I carry this in my heart. You gotta know who you are. So what I remember after the fight, just high-fiving the first person who guessed who was Chad. Right on my height, was an unforgettable moment that we had. So that was the first one. But after that debut, was my debut in UFC Alabama. The fight's supposed to be in New York, and the boxing commission shut us down. We have to get a plane, no sleep, go all the way overnight, no one sleeps. So I become the youngest champion in the tournament in history. And Joe Rogan that night made his debut as a reporter. But success doesn't protect you from struggle. It's only puts in the bigger stage. Pretenders, they read books, they post things on the feeds, they tell who they are, but mentors walk their way. They live and they show the way through their lives. So surround yourself with mentors. Ask questions, stay humble, because your biggest opponent won't be across the octagon. It will be the one inside of you. So fight every day is your last fight, and then every bout is your last. So remember, the same fire that builds you is the same fire that we're going to burn you. So every time you rise, make sure you bow low, put your knees on the floor. Thank the Lord for every day. So that's how you build legacy. My legacy is to keep giving back to the sport, to help the sport grow and inspire the next generation.
When people ask me if it sank in, the truth is, I'm not sure it has. I've been busy. Life keeps moving, but the other day my buddy sent me a text message saying, "Congratulations, Hall of Famer," for the first time. I got the chills, And it was at that moment that I realized, damn, this is pretty cool. I gotta admit, it's a little bittersweet being up here because I did lose that fight. I'd give anything to be able to give back that win, because since I don't have a time machine, spot in the Hall of Fame in the back consolation prize, right? Yeah. That fight with Izzy, people call it legendary, call it a classic. I call it a damn good time. Seriously, that was the most fun I've ever had in a fight. I mean, walking into the octagon, I wasn't thinking about the Hall of Fame. So when that moment finally came for the fight, I was ready. So maybe the layoff, maybe it was because it was the title shot, or maybe it was because I was fighting Israel freaking Adesanya. You guys know that guy. But for whatever the reason, I felt free. I wasn't holding back. I didn't think. I just fought. Don't ask me why. I really don't know why, but I'm glad that my psyche chose that night in Atlanta to let go. And I remember at the end of the 4th round, I lifted my hands. I thought I had it. I thought, this is mine. And then Izzy came out in the 5th round and completely flipped the script on me, man. Damn. You put it on me in that 5th round. Amen. That's the thing, though. I didn't just find out what I was made of that night. I found out what he was made of. Izzy said afterwards, he thought about life and death in there. A little dramatic, a little bit more eloquent. But yeah, I felt that too. You have to go to a dark place to survive something like that. And after a fight like that, there's a bond. We didn't know each other before. He didn't say much, always respectful. But after that night, there was a weird little spark, like a connection that only two people have gone through hell together can understand. I don't know what you call it. Call it a bromance, call it trauma bond. I'll let you guys decide. I didn't enjoy the moment back then. I left the cage and went straight to the hospital. 12 hours of pain, IV meds. I was wrecked. But now years later, hearing fans say they'll never forget that fight, that means something. To my incredible team, they're all here. My A1s from day one. You know, Terrell Hunsinger, Chance Farrar, Brian Beaumont. A decade I've stood here, not by my own might, but through the supernatural power of God. That is truly a miracle for me. My deepest gratitude extends to my mother. She arrived in this country as an immigrant, a single mother who went through sheer will and unwavering determination, raising 2 children on her own. She embodies the spirit of those who come to these shores seeking a better life, never once choosing the easy path. Without her countless sacrifices, I wouldn't be here, and there would be no legendary Gaslam Adesanya bout in Atlanta. This trophy, this Hall of Fame induction, truly belongs to her. Many see me as the tough guy because of the battles I face in my profession, but the toughest fighter I have ever known, and my ultimate hero, is my mother.
Moment I've dreamed of, my chance to become a UFC world champion. And I thank God that my hand was raised that night, because it could have easily gone the other way if I wasn't in my game. And again, I was facing a true killer. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This was one of the most important moments, not just in my life, I mean, not just in my career, but in my life as a man, top 3. One of the most important moments in my life to this day. And it showed me what the human animal is capable of when we tap into our spirit. I found courage, unwavering will, and the desire to be great. Again, like I said, I was willing to, but if I died that night, what a glorious death. But I'm glad that we lived to fight another day. And again, we put on the battle that I still think is one of the greatest battles in human history. And I had a great dance partner in Kelvin Gastelum. So, Kelvin, hermano, gracias. Thank you so much. You made me a better man. I always knew I had that dog in me. I knew I had that mana, that fire, but I never ever got to realize that until you released it from me. So brother, I'm forever indebted to you. Thank you so much. You make me a better person. Thank you.
Oh yeah. I know. Some good weed here in Vegas tonight, I can tell you. Yeah. Lively crowd. It's good to be here. What a privilege and a pleasure it is to be here. You know, by the way, I mean, how cool. I love the sport of MMA, as you guys know, and the respect I have. And coming out here, I hear my theme song. I'm like, shit. Imagine if I was an MMA fighter, like UFC heavyweight, coming out to my music, my theme song, right? That's cool. Man. Well, I don't know about that. Give it a shot. Headline will read, Tom Aspinall knocks out The Rock in 8 seconds.
That's right.
But he's got some cool music. You're playing Mark Kerr in the film. It's called The Smashing Machine after his name. And to study Mark, to become Mark, to delve even deeper in this world of MMA, especially at a time, as many of you know, Mark Kerr started his career down in Valley Tudo. And whereas you guys know, the rules were very minimal, no gloves. And if you won that night, it was a tournament, you went on to fight again that night. Mark never had a fight before. That was his first fight ever, was Valley Tudo down in Brazil. He was in the locker room, he was throwing up, he didn't want to go out. And he goes out there and he wins. He wins again, and he wins again, and he becomes the Valley Tudo champion. Everything in between. But one thing in particular, one moment that I just want to share with you guys is as we were making the film, one of the fights that Mark fought, many of you will probably remember, was a pride fight against Vegeta. And Vegeta had Mark down, he was down on all fours, and Vegeta was teeing off on Mark. Mark didn't move, he couldn't move, he was on all fours, but he was getting rocked. But on his face, you could see that Mark was still with it, he had his wits, but he was getting rocked. And before we shot that scene, I pulled Mark aside and I said, hey brother, could you just talk to me a little bit about what was going through your mind at that time? I'd never seen that before. You get a fighter who's down and getting rocked, but just really unable to move. And he said, I don't know, DJ, I just couldn't move my hands, I couldn't move my arms. And I said, well, could you not have, just tapped out? There were 30,000 Japanese fans there that night, and I didn't want to let anybody down. And it hit me. I went, wow. You realize that in this world of MMA and in the UFC, what these men and these women go through, here this man is, he's a smashing machine. At one time, he was one of the greatest fighters on the planet, if not the greatest fighter on the planet at that time. Him, Mark Coleman, Dan the Beast Severin, Don Fry, those guys, Kevin Randleman, those guys who were the OGs. And here this guy is telling me, I just didn't want to let anybody down. And the reason why it moved me so much, we went out and we shot that scene, but that stuck with me in here. And it moved me because it made me realize that it's in this world of MMA, that it's not about the wins, it's about the pressure to win. He said, yeah, I could have tapped, but I didn't want to do that. I would rather have been beaten to death than quit. And I just didn't want to let anybody down. So the reason why I want to share that with you guys is because that's the thing I think that makes this sport so incredible, is the pressure to win, the pressure to chase that greatness, the greatness that these Hall of Famers all chase. But it's that pressure to be capable, it's the pressure to provide for your family, it's the pressure to win. But in Mark Kerr's case, and I think in many fighters' case, and I think this goes for life, is the wins are great and we always chase the wins. Nobody wants to lose. But sometimes in life, the winning becomes the enemy. And the thing that really matters is actually in the loss. And that's the thing that I'm so proud. Some good weed here in Vegas tonight, I can tell you. Lively crowd, it's good to be here. What a privilege and a pleasure it is to be here. By the way, I mean, how cool. I love the sport of MMA, as you guys know, and the respect I have. And coming out here, I hear my theme song, I'm like, shit. Imagine if I was an MMA fighter, like UFC heavyweight, coming out to my music, my theme song, right? That's cool. Man. Well, I don't know about that. Give it a shot. Headline will read, Tom Aspinall knocks out The Rock in 8 seconds.
That's right.
But he's got some cool music. Mark IV is how he took those losses, the resilience to come back, and now, years later, he's getting ready to come out here and accept his rightful place into the Hall of Fame. And Mark's resilience and Mark's ability to fight through loss is reflective of every fighter, every woman, every man, whether fighters of the past, present, who are going to fight this weekend, and the OGs. So I give it up to Mark Kerr. It was a privilege to play him. And before we bring my brother out here, let's take a look at the Smashing Machine, Mark Kerr. Hold on. It's a great song. Here we go. Mark Kerr, on behalf of every fighter, every fan, everyone around the world who has found some sort of strength through your story, I say thank you, and we say thank you, Mark, from me to you, brother. I'll tell you this when you come out, thank you for living your life, because your life has changed mine. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so honored to present UFC Hall of Famer, my brother, Mark Kerr, the Smashing Machine. Yes, there were times I'm sure you knew more than I could chew, but through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall.
Oh, thank you. It's been taking me a minute to get my nerves to calm down here. This is, I'd rather be in the ring fighting than, up here giving a speech, but I'll try to actually get through this. This is off script here. This is, so my experience with DJ is a couple different things. One, he's the most gracious, hardworking human being I have ever met in my entire life. He gives and cares so deeply about this whole entire process. It's changed my life. And he's taken extraordinary steps to represent everything on screen in a way educated. He knows you understand what you're watching. You can't fake. So he dug in and he got all the little nuggets and he understands all the psychology of it. And it's just this amazing process to have him, Emily, Benny, and the whole entire team involved in producing this incredible epic. And it's not because it's my life, it's humanity. It's the humanness of being here. And there wasn't social media. There wasn't, oh, I'm gonna put you on IG and do this and that. Back then, for me being honest and upfront and sharing myself with the world, I was doing it genuinely because that's where I was coming from. And for him to be that vulnerable at this point in time and to give himself unlike anything else. First time I ever made that majestic walk down to do battle was in Brazil, and actually I took that walk 3 times that night. So this was back when I referred to it as NHB, no holds barred. And there was no gloves, there was bare knuckle, there was headbutts, nut shots, they're sticking your cuts and fingers. That night I broke a guy's teeth out. I inoculated my hand with the strep bacteria. And when I got back to the States, I spent a week in the hospital. 3 fights one night. Yeah, some say it's barbaric. The truth is, it was awesome. You know, we are built differently, obviously. And because we're built differently, it bonds our community different. You know, the MMA world, it bonds us all together. The third fight I had that night was against a guy named Fabio Gurgel. And he's a legend in Brazil. And the fight was violent. I maliciously attacked him with headbutts, which were legal, and punches, and I even fractured his orbital. And he wouldn't stop, you know, and I was in absolute awe of just this fighter. And the contest was supposed to go until somebody either tapped out, got knocked out, choked out, or quit. And, you know, the judges decided they were going to award a victory. And, like, literally, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, did you see what I did to your husband last night? Do you know what's going on? So, I agreed. And the reality was, they wanted to have me up to the house for lunch to make sure everything was okay with me. And from that moment on, I knew how I was going to carry myself in the sport. What happens in the octagon, the ring or the cage, stays there. Carry yourself outside that with dignity, class, and respect. And I did that until I didn't. I tried everything I could to learn how to love the man in the mirror. 2 UFC tournament wins, multiple fights in one night, headlined fighting in Japan in front of 60,000 people. And, you know, I'm a kid from East Toledo. You know, I wasn't listening to the lessons, you know, fighting was trying to teach me. My mom died September 3rd, 1996, right before I started fighting. But instead of grieving, I didn't slow down. I pushed the gas even harder. I trained harder, fought harder, partied harder. I burnt the candle at both ends. I told myself I would clean it up when it was over. But I didn't. I just burned. There's nothing like the high of being in the ring. When it's gone, you try to find highs in other ways. And to hide from the pain of my mom's death and the pain of not feeling like I was good enough, smart enough, or just enough. You know, I tried to outrun my pain. Instead, I ran into addiction. I overdosed twice. Doctors had said there was nothing medically they could do. That if I was going to survive, that it would be my body that had to fight it. The fighter in me was the fighter in me basically inside was fighting alone. I said, here's the reality. It's thank God he got me. Thankfully. You know, I realized that at every fight, inside or outside the ring, you can learn something beautiful from it, and it's if you're willing to look for it. 7 years ago, on the anniversary of Mom's death, September 3rd, my son Bryce looked at me and said, "Dad, I know today's hard. I know you got it.